The Republican Zone is brought to you by Drew Murray, a modern view from the Republican lens, covering local and national news, understanding that one size doesn't fit all when it comes to politics. The Republican Zone airs Wednesday from 1 to 2 p.m. and Saturday from 3 to 4 p.m.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Usula Radio. My name is Drew Murray, and I am the host of the Republican Zone. I have my friend Pete Smith here today. Pete ran for city council in the 6th District of Philadelphia. So welcome back, Pete. Yeah, I should say welcome back. Yeah,
Thank
you have been on. So, we both ran for city council. You made it all the way through to the general. I lost in the primary, but... Well, first of all, congratulations. You did a great job. You did an incredible job. It's very difficult to run against an incumbent, even incumbent who is currently indicted. He is indicted, so I'm not saying anything that's not factual.
That's true. The trial date starts September 14th.
Oh, is that right?
Jury selection, yes.
So he is indicted, and he is innocent until he's proven guilty. So first, how's it been since the election? I say, even when you lose, the one good thing is you feel like you get a lot of your time back.
Yeah, I was able to, get back and dive into work and, been doing some great things at my job and getting reacclimated with the family.
Yes.
Had a, great holiday season. Was able to see a lot of family, things that, I wasn't able to do while on the campaign trail. And that was good. I have a little bit of some physical limitations right now, which are a result of the campaign, which I'm getting looked at. Some damage to my leg.
Yes.
But
it's hard. I mean, people don't realize how much walking you do.
Yeah.
Just
it's
during
true.
during petitions, during canvassing, you're putting on, I don't know, during petition time, the 3 weeks of petitions, I think I walked over 10 miles a day. And then canvassing,
freezing cold, rain, snow, just to get signatures. And in the area of Mayfair, the steps are very unforgiving.
Yes. So yeah, it is extremely challenging, and it's all day, it's every day, it's raising money, So you weren't successful, but. Did you enjoy it? Was it a good experience?
Yeah, it was a very good experience. It was a great opportunity for me to get out and meet all of my neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
I met a lot of great people. I banged on over 20,000 doors.
Wow.
And, I gained a lot of respect for a lot of people in the neighborhood, and we all have felt the same, things. We all care about the same things, and it was a good opportunity for me to, see, what my neighbors are about and what they're looking for, and they seem to be rallying around my mission of, quality of life, the opioids, things like that affect everybody, and it was just a breath of fresh air meeting everybody, and I met a lot of great people. Even people like yourself who are not in the neighborhood, but
we became friends over the past 12 months.
A lot of great relationships, and we'll see where it takes me.
Did anything surprise you throughout the election? This was your first election, right? Ever first campaign?
It was my first election. Surprising, no. I was happy with the result. I achieved 40% of the vote, which.
That's incredible, yeah.
It's very hard to do in Philadelphia.
As a Republican.
Even when your opponent is under, federal indictment. But the only surprising thing to me was the power that the other side had and the fear amongst people in not wanting to support me, so not to challenge them. And, I learned a valuable lesson that you can't expect, handouts and things like that. If you want something, you have to work for it yourself and go get it. And I think I did a pretty good job at that.
You know, I saw you working every day, getting out there, knocking on doors, and as a new candidate, challenging both new as in meaning it's your first candidate, it's your first campaign, and going against an incumbent. You know, you're knocking on doors because it's there's two things that are hard. It's hard as a Republican getting a lot of people to come out to help because there just are not many Republicans in the city of Philadelphia, and it's hard to raise money.
Yeah,
and
it's a education thing as well that I was, and that's one of the things I was surprised about was that I would knock on a door and people would not even know who their city council representative was, let alone that he was under federal indictment. They just didn't know who it was.
Sure.
And just in speaking to them and educating them, you made them feel good that, one, you were out there meeting them and knocking on their door and asking for their support, and they were reciprocal in giving it back to you.
Sure. No, I always say to people, I bet if you went to most people in the city of Philadelphia and you said, can you tell me, number one, your city council district person, number two, your state rep, number two, your state senator, number four, even your congressman, you know, both the two senators in the state and your local congressman. I bet 95% of the people would be able to name all of them. I would say the good percentage wouldn't be able to name half of those. Because, you know, and just look at the turnouts at the election. I think we were almost at 20% for the general this year. In Philadelphia, that's still, you know, 1.5 million people. That's only a couple hundred thousand, a few hundred thousand people.
Sure. We have over 85,000 registered voters in the 6th Councilmatic District, and only 20,000 people came out and voted.
So that means they're not even interested enough to vote, let alone know who their local representatives are.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that the power they have in voting. And the comment and the slogan that I had was "Nothing changes if nothing changes," and nothing has changed in over 60 years in Philadelphia, and nothing changed this past November. And it's you can see it. I mean, we're at day 15 of the year, and we have 18 homicides.
Sure. No, you're absolutely right. And some will argue that it did change because we have actually one less Republican on city council because Kendra Brooks from the Working Family Party won one of the seats that are reserved for a minority party. I tell people I disagree with the fact that she won, not because I want a Republican to win, which I did, but she was a Democrat. She is a Democrat.
She is, and they use the independent platform to take out a Republican.
Sure. No, and I that's not the way the legislation. That wasn't in the spirit of the legislation. So basically, they just got another Democrat on city council, and less, you know, diversity from a philosophical standpoint. Meaning, you know, there's less people who are conservative. And I, as a moderate myself, I always say I am a moderate. I believe a lot of the answers are in the middle, even if I'm a Republican, so obviously leaning right. But when you have everyone on city council, the vast majority of people thinking the exact same way, thinking the way we thought for, as you said, 60 to, I think it's coming up on 70 years, how do you change things? You know, we're still the poorest big city in the United States, and we keep putting the same people in office over and over again. And I hear people who are upset. You know, people say to me, you know, how can we change things? And I don't say, well, vote for Republican. I mean, that's kind of the cheeky answer you give. Vote for someone new, you know.
Yeah, vote for change, and vote for someone who understands your values. Like you said, that we have the highest poverty rate. So in Northeast Philadelphia, where I would have represented, has always been the middle class hub of Philadelphia. Working class families, manufacturing jobs, everything. And now we have one of the highest poverty rates in the city. Mm-hmm. Our median income is going down, where an average person in Northeast Philly may have made anywhere from $60,000 to $70,000. You're now making $40,000 to $50,000. And it's shocking because the rest of the country is in an economic boom. Unemployment rates are very low across the board in all categories.
They're record lows. They're
Yeah.
well beyond full employment.
Jobs are out there, yet we still have that problem in the Northeast. And it was nice today to see an article that we'll be getting a bunch of jobs in the Northeast building helicopters.
Yes.
Which is a direct reflection of the federal government and the President of the United States, and not anything that was done on city council or through the mayor. It was a government contract, and it's going to bring that infrastructure to the Northeast, and hopefully that'll be a little bit of a nudge that we need.
Sure. And look, I have friends on city council. I think they're doing what they believe is right. It's just I disagree with the route they're taking. The best way to get out of poverty, first at a ground level, we need better education, but we also need more jobs. And Democrats want the city and its citizens to have more jobs. Of course they do. But it's just, how do you do that? As a Republican, if you look at the underlying reason why I'm a Republican is we got to attract businesses here, and by doing that, that means in many ways lower taxes, whether it's the wage tax, whether it's the business tax, the BIRT, whether it's the soda tax. We need to make Philadelphia attractive to businesses, and right now we're not. I mean, we keep bringing up legislation that, in the heart, it's a good idea. The Fair Work Week bill that Councilwoman Kim put through, I get it. I mean, I understand that having a Fair Work Week and knowing your hours and what you're going to do every week helps with childcare. Councilwoman Kim's heart absolutely in the right place. And I'm going to have her on next week. Actually, I don't agree with it because I think it does tie the hands of businesses, and it's little things. Do I think that the Fair Work Week bill is going to be the downfall of business in the city? Absolutely not. But it's little things. They add up. The soda tax, legislation that makes the city not attractive to business, they add up. And that's why I think we're not seeing the economic growth that the rest of the country has.
Right. And it's just really another restriction and more bureaucracy and red tape to a business. Now, I work full-time. I know what my hours are. And I also know that there's times there I'm going to be going in early. I might be working through lunch. I might be working late. But as a salaried manager, I expect that. Certain jobs that have different shifts, whether it be retail or things like that, it could fluctuate and change. However, if you work with your employer and your manager, you can come to some sort of an agreement that will allow you to have some sort of a steady schedule. But to force that, onto a business, again, is something a little bit more extreme, something that is leaning, what they say, more left, where you're putting more restrictions, and that may prevent an employer from coming to Philadelphia and bringing job opportunities.
Sure, and the Fair Week, that example I give, and I think that's relatively minor. And again, I understand the reasoning behind it, especially for a single working mother, for example, to know her hours. I understand it. So I'm empathetic, but there are industries where it is extremely challenging to know hours 2-3 weeks in advance. I mean, for example, the hotel industry. Are you going to know exactly? Sometimes you do know, and in those circumstances, I would assume the business wants to take care of their employees as much as possible, but they might not know. There might be an Eagle scheme that comes in for the weekend, and you got to bump up your staff. So
they could have won last week, and
if they won, we could have had an FC championship next week if they won again. But
unfortunately, lost, and everybody went home.
That's right. So, all right, we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Ursula Radio.
I came out in the 11th grade. Nobody was embracing you. The kids were cruel. It was very difficult to be gay. Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. And even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma. I have a mentor, Maria, and she convinced me to continue my education. Just never judges. She's a true role model. From the depths of my heart, I thank you, Maria, for being a friend and a beautiful person. No one receives a diploma alone, and I'm honored to share this moment with you. Thank you. If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, go get it. You can do it.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Because of you, I feel not alone in this world. And you let me know that it only takes one person to make you feel wanted.
Welcome back. You're listening to USLA Radio. I am Drew Murray, and I am the host of the Republican Zone. I'm here with my friend Pete Smith. We've been talking about Pete's campaign in the last cycle. We've been talking about just Philadelphia in general, right? We're talking about we left off how the city makes it a little challenging for businesses to want to come to the city, and sometimes it's just little things that up. One big thing is the soda tax. I mean, when the soda tax was first presented, even to me as both a citizen and someone who is the head of a friends group, the Friends of Cox Park, I thought, you know what? Let's try it. Let's see how it goes. I didn't necessarily realize, honestly, at first, really how much the soda tax was going to increase the cost of some of those beverages. I mean, in some cases, it doubles the price. I thought it was going to be more of an incremental increase, but I thought, you know what? Our parks and rec centers are falling apart. Maybe this, and my thought was always there's no such thing as a temporary tax, right? But I was hoping that maybe this would be a temporary tax that would help fund some of these programs, as long as it does not hurt businesses in the city of Philadelphia. Well, it's been proven that it hurts businesses because number one, it's a huge tax. It's not just an incremental tax. It's not a 2-3% tax on what you would normally pay for a sweetened beverage. It sometimes doubles the cost of that beverage. And the one thing, a few things I didn't realize. I didn't think it was going to hurt business that much, but what we're seeing is not only are people leaving to go get their sodas when they're crossing City Line Avenue, because groceries, no matter what, are going to be a little less expensive outside the city, they're buying everything. Mm-hmm. They're loading up their car. And the ShopRite in West Philly, that's what was really the turning point for me, the tipping point, when the ShopRite in West Philadelphia closed. Because I said, look, it is hurting businesses. And that is, and I'm sure you've seen it in all areas of the city. But it's interesting, when I was running, and I started talking to a lot of people who are running and who are even from underserved communities, or even when I'm speaking in underserved communities, they're the ones that are negatively affected the most because they don't have the ability to jump in a car and drive across City Line Avenue or drive to New Jersey or Bucks County. They're not as mobile. So the people we're trying to help most, the underserved communities that we're trying to help most with the soda tax, with whether it's the rebuild program for Parks and Recreation or Universal Pre-K, we're actually hurting them the most.
It's true, and where I live, I travel to New Jersey or to Ben Salem, and when I pull into the Cinnamons and ShopRite, which is just 10 minutes across the Tacony Bridge, it's filled with Pennsylvania parking.
Sure.
And you can tell they're all from the city. And what happens is not only is the price for soda so overwhelming in the city stores, but now they're raising the price of other goods and products to compensate for that. So like you said, you go over to another store, and while you're there, you're picking up all your groceries. Because one, if you're going to travel somewhere to just get soda, you might as well save the money on other products as well. And like you said, it would have been, if they just raised it a percentage of the, instead of 8% sales tax on soda was 9%. But they didn't. They actually put a tax percentage on ounces. And if you have children and they like soda, but they're not tied to one brand or another, you would go back and forth between Pepsi and Coke each week. 5 for $5 to 64-ounce bottles.
And not even just sodas. I need a lot of a lot of sweet
Exactly.
beverages that no one, even I, didn't expect to be taxed.
Sweetened water, and things like that. Milk, certain milks, orange juices, and it's just ridiculous. Because, like you said, you can go for the sale 5 for $5, but with the tax, it's over $11.
Sure. And it's still expensive, and it's and again, this was a tax that I think that everyone's hearts were in the right place, but now that we're looking at it a couple years later, I would love to see a study to if you could really capture everything. Are we actually losing money now, literally from a direct result of the tax of literally just people buying their goods outside of the city? Forget about the job loss, which I think has been proven that has happened, whether it's a ShopRite closing or Teamsters, truck drivers losing jobs because they're not delivering as much product to the city. Just purely, is the tax revenue actually down? Because you also got to remember, when you buy those sodas outside the city, yeah, it hurts the business. It also, you lose the 8% on the tax that you would receive. So it's probably impossible to quantify that. But I'd be interested to see that. And are we just robbing Peter to pay Paul? Is basically kind of what I do believe. And we'll see if the city council revisits. I mean,
I don't think you'll see that in the next couple of years. And bottom line it was an idea that, well, if we tax soda, people won't drink as much and it's more healthier. And that just wasn't the case. It's just that we're now going further away to get it, but we're still drinking it.
Sure. No, and to me, that would be a benefit if kids drank soda less. It would be. I mean, I love my soda. That's like my one big vice. I don't drink a ton of it, but my daughters don't drink it at all. They've never kind of developed a taste for it. But there are a lot of people, and again, a lot of people in underserved communities. We have a health problem, I'll say, in the city and around the country. None of us eat as well as we should, but I think in underserved communities, people, because it's cheaper, it's cheaper sometimes to not eat healthy. So, to me, it was like, okay, well, if children are gonna drink healthier, eat healthier, that's a good thing. But there is also the argument, look, I should be able to do what I want with my life. Maybe not, maybe not the children, but adults. So there's that argument as well. So, look, there's never an easy answer, but I do think the city, and hope the city, revisits that, because it is a problem. Another huge problem that we saw a lot, and I know directly affects your life, is the opioid crisis that we're seeing in this city. There's homeless. They're all over the city, and these, and we need to help these people without a doubt. But we're ramping up, and we're hearing again and again, the possibility of safe injection sites. And I know your opinion on it, and we'll talk about it again, but, remind everybody, what your thoughts are and what your experiences are in the opioid crisis and with safe injection sites.
Well, like everyone else, my family has been directly impacted by the opioid crisis. My son suffers from addiction. He's been out on the streets for well over 2 years now. He has 3 sons. His oldest son that he had through a previous relationship, his mother has already passed because of the opioid crisis through her addiction. And, yes, I'm against safe injection sites. But the bottom line is, and somewhere where the city fails is, I'm for more treatment and rehabilitation. And that's something that the city does not do. The city currently, right now, their Medicaid system is only approving detox. I'm sorry, they're only approving methadone. They're not approving detox. And a lot of the users who want to get clean are struggling with that and are refusing to go because they don't want to go through the methadone treatment. My son was on methadone for almost 2 years. We thought he was clean, he was going to meetings, but here he was going to get his methadone every day. He lost his insurance, and within 2 weeks, he was back using
back.
again. And the same thing, everything started missing. So my plan that if I was able to achieve city council would be to expand that and to stop that, what I call, enabling. Putting someone on methadone does not address the issue.
Sure.
Allowing someone to go in and illegally shoot themselves up with heroin does not correct the issue. Bringing them in and giving them real treatment and rehabilitation is the answer. And it's not a one-size-fits-all. And it's not a 30-day. It's got to be at least a minimum of 90 days. We have the ability to do things. There's a lot of restrictions and what they call barriers that were reduced from the federal government, from the state, where you don't need a license or an ID, you don't need insurance, you just have to go. But in Philadelphia, you still have barriers, and one of those barriers is they will not approve you for detox. They'll only approve you for 21 days of inpatient methadone treatment.
And what would detox entail? Like, would it be
detox would entail
like an inpatient type of
inpatient anywhere from 5 to 8 days of cleaning you out and cleaning your system and clearing your mind. Then you need to go through a health evaluation. You have to go through a physical health evaluation, a mental health evaluation, and an addiction evaluation. Because not everything is, well, I blew my knee out playing football and now I'm addicted. There's mental issues, there's different things. So each person has to go through that evaluation so that they can address
the underlying reason for
the underlying
it.
reason. Then you have to put them through that treatment program, and it's a lifelong battle. So basically, taking them in, putting them on methadone, and then putting them right outside is not the answer. Because now they have to come back every day and get methadone.
And the methadone treatment, you said what is it typically?
It's pills. You take pills, and it deters
Is there
the
a
high.
period of time?
The way methadone was created was to wean you off.
Sure.
But they don't do that. They just put you on it, and it's basically giving you one high over another. And the other issue is that, okay, so, for example, my son, he goes and he's put on methadone. Where's he going to go? He's not welcome back at his house with his wife. She's moved on.
Sure.
He's not welcome back in our house either because some of the things that he's done and, and I'm not saying I'm unsympathetic, but there's got to be a place for him to go. And we do have halfway houses and beds available for them to do that. In addition, he has some serious criminal charges facing him, both city and state, which most on addiction do. So that's where my intervention plan comes into play, where you have, okay, so you go in and you're identified as someone who has, warrants. You hold them. You put them through detox. It's part of an intervention program. You put them in front of a drug court, which is designed for drug users, not drug dealers. And you, through the evaluation process, determine a plan. And in lieu of incarceration, you must go through that plan. And I think that's a way of, helping, eliminate the amount of people that are out on the streets.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Usula Radio.
wait. Communicate. Make your emergency plan today.
Welcome back. You're listening to Usula Radio and the Republican Zone. I'm here with my friend Pete Smith, and the end of the last segment, we were still talking. We continue to talk about the opioid crisis, the safe injection sites that are proposed for the city of Philadelphia and honestly many municipalities around the country. Again, this is one of those things that the heart's in the right place. The people who want safe injection sites are trying to reduce the harm. In other words, if they can save the life of a person from overdosing, then that's a good thing. And I see where they're going and why they do that. But the problem is they're not addressing the underlying fact of why people are in the addiction cycle and how can we get them off of the cycle. Now, I think they can. People who come in to these safe injection sites, the thought is they can seek treatment, but they don't have to. And I think most won't.
Right. And that's true. And most addicts will, there's like a radius of where they get their drugs and where they use it. So if I go to a specific corner and I get my packet of heroin, I'm going within a 2-block radius to inject. And it's going to be in the street, it's going to be in a car, it's going to be in a public restroom, wherever I can, because the need is so great. So having one safe injection site may address the issue in a certain area, but it also opens it up to a lot of different things. More drug activity outside that area.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
There's no guarantee that person is going to seek, treatment. The information will be there. And yes, if they are, if they do go through an overdose event, they can be resuscitated and revived. Issues. I go into this place, and my understanding is that they're going to test the heroin. If there's any traces of fentanyl, they're going to not allow you to do it. So what are they going to do? They're going to give you back the packet of heroin? No. They're going to pay for it? No. You're going to go out to the streets, you're going to do whatever you have to do to get another packet, and then you're not going to go back. The amount of people that they estimate saving per year is roughly around 50 to 60. Well, when you have over 1,400 heroin overdoses, that's a very small percentage. However, yes, you've saved a life. I'd like to see the statistics of these other countries of someone whose life was saved at a safe injection site and whether that person had gone through recovery or has passed on through another overdose event outside of it, which is something
because you're right. You say they don't go within really a 2-block radius. So
exactly. And then the other issue is when you compare this to, like, say, Toronto or Vancouver, you still have record-setting overdose deaths in that area. So, like you said, it's not addressing the underlying problem. So, yes, it's an idea, but why change things up? Why reinvent the wheel? We have successful programs in place. Recovery and rehabilitation does work. Why don't we just get back to it? And that's what we're not doing. Cleaning out an encampment and just moving these people onto the street does nothing. They're still going, and now they're wandering instead of grouping together. We need to get these folks into treatment and rehabilitation. And unfortunately, we may have to do it as an intervention piece through the legal system of if you overdose, you're held on a medical 302. You go through the detox program. If you have, like I said, warrants or anything like that, you're held through a detox and evaluation program, then go through a process. you want to eliminate. You don't want to have mass incarceration.
Sure.
Of
No, you're not trying to
drugs.
criminalize it. You're trying
But
to bring
you want to
people
help
in.
these people, and you do that through a legal system and saying, okay, well, here's the deal. You go through a successful treatment program, your record's going to be clear.
Sure.
Now that person can go out and get a job and be a productive member of society. In addition, like you said, you have to reacclimate these people back into society. You have to reacclimate them into their family situations, into different job skills, because they may not be able to go back to their job. And while they're being, through a treatment program, they're out, they're working, they're cleaning up abandoned lots, they're cleaning up parks, they're cleaning up the streets. There are learning programs. They're working at the ACT shelter, which has been struggling, things like that. There's plenty for them to do
Sure.
to keep them busy, because you want to put them back on a schedule and a program. You can't just say, okay, here you go, you're on methadone. What do? I'm roaming the streets.
Oh, they need a routine. They need a job. They need a way to move on with their life. And you actually made a good point. So, and we're on the same page. I don't think it helps users. I think it enables users, and it doesn't treat the underlying reason. But another reason to look at I think the harm that a safe injection site can do is, you said it. It's what better way for dealers to find customers than to go near and stand outside or close to a safe injection site. Their customers are coming to them, going both ways. So I think it also harms the community. And as I walked around canvassing, knocking on doors, and talking to people, I don't think I met one person who said, I'm for safe injection sites even if they are in my community. I personally never met someone. I met a lot of people who said they were for safe injection sites, and many people gave Kensington as the example. Like, Kensington has to have this. It's a crisis that it's the worst. It's the worst area in the country as far as it's ground zero for the opioid crisis. And as I explained to them, and as you even said, if the users won't go outside of a 2-block radius, then you need, in order for this even to work, you would need numerous around the city, because there are people under addiction all over the city of Philadelphia. As soon as I said, okay, I live in Logan Square. I said, okay, are you okay with the safe injection site in Logan Square? They said, well, of course not. I have children. Yeah. I said, well, so do the people in Kensington. They have children too. They might be a little more willing to do it because they see that they might have no other choice. But, I think it's harmful to the communities. You're allowing people to do drugs, and they're not keeping the people in the safe injection site the whole time they are on this high.
That's the other issue.
They're leaving.
And they're still exiting the facility and doing the things they needed to do to get the money to get the drugs.
Absolutely.
And that's the other issue that you're going to have.
And if you're not helping, yeah, exactly. These people are on the streets, so unfortunately they are committing crimes. And I don't want to criminalize it, because these people under the cycle of addiction do need help. But when you're enabling them to continue to do this drug, then you're going to enable them to continue to do the things they need to do to buy these drugs.
Absolutely.
So look, it is an incredibly hard and challenging subject. It is, and I really appreciate your candor because of what you're going through with your son. It's got to be extremely difficult.
It is.
And to be honest, if I had I have daughters who are still young, but if I had a child in that, I often say, I'm like, I don't know, maybe it would change my mind. I have a friend who lives in my neighborhood whose son died of an overdose, and I talked to him actually just about a month ago. First time I ever talked to him about his son passing away, and I said, well, what are your thoughts? And he said, I'm absolutely for safe injection sites, and I understood it. I'm not gonna. I said, look, here's how I feel, but I'm not going to try to change your mind, because what you've gone through, and his son only passed away about a year ago, a year or two ago. So I said, I'm never going to try to convince you of what I feel are the harms of safe injection sites, because for someone who lost a child, it's I can't even imagine.
No, and listen, I've lost family members, and I've had that question said to me. Well, what if they were in a safe injection site and they were saved? And yes, that would be great. But what would have stopped them from going to another location and doing that? My cousin passed away. He OD'd at 8 o'clock at night he went to, and they Narcaned him at Frankfurt Hospital under the L and left him go. And at 6 o'clock that following morning, he OD'd again and died. So, what is the answer? He was Narcan, and he was brought back. He was in a safe injection site. He still passed away within a 24-hour time frame. And you can second guess a lot of things. You can say, well, if he would have been held by the hospital, it would have never happened. If he was in a safe injection site, would it have happened? Mm-hmm. It's hard to say, and you don't know. And not like the same thing. I'm not going to argue with your friend about it. I'm not going to argue with anybody about it. I don't think it's the right way to go, but I'm offering a solution.
Sure. And look, I mean, right now, it's a crisis. So I think all ideas should be on the table, and we should discuss them, because something absolutely needs to be done. But, you know, the way I look at it as well is, yes, you're saving them in that instance. But as you said, you know, the next time they get to do it, they could overdose because they're not near the safe injection site. You're also harming your body every time you put that into your body.
Yeah.
So, you know, at one point, it's going to deplete your body to the point where you're going to die anyway. I say you're every time you inject, you are killing yourself a little more. So, you know, I get the harm reduction. And look, I'll be honest with you. If it's been proven to work, I'll say that I'm wrong. But number one, it hasn't been proven yet. And I would love to see a study that said, okay, granted, yeah. So you mentioned that it'll save 50 to 60 people. But I'd like to see a study to say, okay, how many people did it actually, so you save 50 to 60, but how many people did it kill because you did enable them to continue the use? Mm-hmm. And when you're normalizing the use of drugs, right?
Exactly.
You're not telling people it's okay, but by bringing them in to an area where it is safe, they can do it, and there are people there to help them with Narcan if needed. That does normalize it a bit, right? I mean, no matter what you do and no matter where your heart is, it does normalize the use of an incredibly dangerous drug. It's dangerous every time you put it in your body, and it's dangerous over time. So, and I don't know the answer to that. The only thing I know for certain is we need, on a federal level, on a state level, and a municipal level, to put money on the table to figure out this crisis. Mm-hmm. You know, we do. I'm not one of those extremists who say, you know, these people put themselves in this situation, because number one, some didn't, and those who did, who cares? They need our help. We got to figure it out, because once they're in that cycle of addiction, in many ways they don't have the ability to get out, at least not without help. So we need to put the money forward to go into programs like a detox program to get these people off the cycle of addiction, out of the cycle of addiction, to get them off the streets and back into a productive life. So we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Usula Radio.
Our hearts are made stronger by how we treat others.
Put her there.
The light you share can impact those around you, but so can the darkness.
Later, twerps.
Did Pete saying mean things bother you?
So when you reach out to another person, take a moment to consider how they will feel, and let your heart be the key to making a difference. Because of you, someone's entire day, year, or even life can change.
In every heart, there's hope.
They call me Maxie, but I prefer tripod. I was your above-average four-legged homie, and then wham, bam, minivan. Some people pity me. Now that's lame. I still run, fetch, and swim. And the ladies love me. I'm the ultimate wingman. Just don't ask me to high five.
Welcome back. You're listening to Usula Radio. My name is Drew Murray, and I am the host of the Republican Zone. I'm here with my friend Pete Smith, who ran in the last cycle for City Council in the 6th District. And so, what are your next steps, Pete? Like, I know, we talked a little bit before we came in here. I am almost definitely running for state representative in the 182nd Legislative District. What are your future plans immediately, 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, 2 years from now?
Yeah, right now I'm exploring a couple of different options. Of course, after the election, I was asked would I consider running again if there was a special election, when he's convicted.
Which is very possible.
Yeah. Not if, it's when and for how long.
Sure.
But I've been recently also, I was a little bit taken aback from the way things were, but with the replacement of a new chairperson with Martina White as the Philadelphia Republican City Committee, I'm still going to stay interested in the party, possibly helping out and filling a vacancy in one of the wards as a ward leader. But I've actually been approached by people, outside of the city to run for Congress. And I've also been approached by the state, including Representative Martina White, to run for state representative in my area. So I'm weighing the options there, and I'm kind of leaning towards the state representative run. Because I feel that when I look at the city, and people say to you, "How can you lose to a guy who is under a federal indictment?" And when you look at the city, it's been in the same way for over 60 years. It's hard, and the city is really moving in a direction that is well outside some of the values that I have and a lot of the values of my neighbors. And we've talked about the opioid crisis, the business taxes, the soda tax, everything, which is against the neighbors, and the working class person. And I'm leaning more towards the state because now I've seen how the state has interjected itself into some of the things that the city has done.
And it's the 177th?
The 177th.
And who currently holds that?
Representative Joe Hohenstein.
Joe Hohenstein, okay.
Yeah. He's a freshman Democratic state representative who...
He ran when Representative
John Taylor had retired. And
he went
yeah,
against Patty Pat.
Yeah, Joe's a good guy. He was always a gentleman to me, even during the race against someone he aligns himself with. But some of his voting records are kind of different from the values, and we still have issues within our district with the opioid crisis, with the violence, and different things like that, and where the Republican Party has a majority within the state. And with great candidates running like yourself and Aaron Beshear, there's an opportunity for state representation back in the city that might be able to help with a lot of the issues that the city government refuses to deal with.
Sure, and it goes back to the let's look and do something different. Let's not be the definition of insanity and do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. In West Philadelphia, a state representative had to step down because she was accused of taking a bribe. And so they had a special election. And the person who took over was accused of stealing money from a charity. Literally, the next person that the party backed and was elected in a special election is already stepping. She already did step down.
Yeah, and now we're having another special.
And now we're having literally the third special election in the legislative district in West Philadelphia.
3 Democratic state representatives in the last 2 years.
And look, there are a lot of and I'm not saying by any means that all Democrats are are corrupt and that every Republican in the world is perfect by any means. There are bad people on both sides of the aisle, but sometimes you get to the point where, and as your slogan was, nothing changes. What is it again? Nothing changes if nothing changes. We need to start looking, in through a different lens. And as I talk to people, look, our president is a very polarized individual. And we talked about this even before we came on. He comes across as arrogant. But number one, President Trump is a Republican, and as are we. But that doesn't mean you can't. There are people I talk to who are like, you're the party of Trump, which is just not true, because number one, he's been president for less than 4 years. Mm-hmm. So it's not the party of Trump. There are plenty of Republicans. And I tell people, just look at the issues, look at the person, and don't even look at, and I'm speaking locally within the city of Philadelphia, don't even think from a party standpoint. Just listen to their ideas. And maybe you'll start hearing something that you think is a way the city and the state, a direction they should be going. And as you said, as you knocked on so many doors, how many people, it's like their eyes light up, like, oh, you're right.
Yeah.
And you're a Republican, and sometimes it's you're saying the same things that I want to hear.
Well, I represent, and I'm a Republican, and I've been a Republican for years. But first and foremost, I'm a Philadelphian, mm-hmm. and to me, it's people over politics, and that's where our elected officials, lose it. And I'm for term limits for every single position, because to me, if you want to be a career politician, you're constantly growing and moving into different and higher positions. Or what I think is you take someone who has some new, fresh ideas, some different experiences, and put that person and see if that helps in different things. Donald Trump's the problem. He's only been in Washington for 3 years, but Nancy Pelosi, Schumer, Schiff, even McConnell.
I'm about to say, you got to name at least one Republican.
And they've all been there over 30 years. Mm-hmm. So who's the problem? In city council, we have, long-tenured city council members. Who's the problem? And that's what you have to look at. And that's what I said is, we have to put people over politics sometimes. And we have to do what's right for the people. And right now, the government, the city government, is failing its residents. And like I said, we're only on day 15, and we have over 18 homicides. And who knows what happened in the last day or two?
No, this was a horrible weekend. And,
and
we probably shouldn't even start talking about Krasner at this point, because
we don't have enough time.
We don't have enough time to do that.
That's 3 shows.
Yes,
but maybe doing some legislation at the state level could help
sure.
me.
And so you are still thinking about Congress. Which seat?
Against Brendan Boyle.
Brendan Boyle. Okay.
Yeah. So the 2nd congressional district.
Okay. So those are now. You only have about 13 days till petition.
I'll make my decision.
So you got to make that decision pretty quickly. Yeah. Well, you also need to leave time to print out all those petitions. So, so no, that's great. Again, I am also. I'm almost positive I'm running for the 182nd, and it's a challenge in the city of Philadelphia to. We'll talk about petitions. I mean, we only need 300 signatures. Only 300 is a huge number when it's a Republican. When you're walking around knocking on doors, you're knocking on every one every 5 doors or one every 10 doors, depending on what area of the city that you live in. And how many did you need for district? 700.
700.
7. Now, how many did you get?
It got close to 1,200.
That's good. Okay, I thought you were like 701.
And like you said, it's it's funny because you would go down the street and you'd have 3 or 4 guys with you, and you say, "Okay, you take these 4, the houses," and that was it. And we moved to the next block because there was only 4 registered Republican houses on the block.
No, I mean, and it also depends on the area of the city. I mean, my 182nd is the entire 8th ward. It's the little a part of the 5th and a part of the 2nd, and it's going to be extremely challenging to get 300 signatures. When I ran for city council, I spent, I think, one day in the 8th Ward, and I realized it's too hard because you need 1,000. You know, I spent all of my time.
A lot of time with me.
I went to the Oh, I was. I called Patty. Well, the first people I contacted, I'm like, I need to get these signatures, Pat. Where should I go? And she should go to Bridesburg. Yeah. I was in Bridesburg. I spent most Saturdays in Bridesburg. I spent the time in the Northeast with you that day with Brian McCann, right near Constadters. What is that?
Pennypack.
That's Pennypack. Yeah, with which I think it's old military housing, right? Those like cluster of homes.
Yeah.
That I mean that was actually the best place in the city to go.
Yeah.
As a Republican.
Good people up there.
Yeah. No. People opened their doors. Numerous times I knocked on because I actually went back. We didn't hit every one of those clusters, so I went back, and there were numerous times I would knock on the door. It must have been a few of the days that weren't 20 degrees because the doors would be open, and I think in 2 occasions they were older women actually said, "Come on in," and I was like, Are you sure? Like, yeah, just come on in, because they just assumed it was their neighbors.
Yeah.
So I walked in, and one was actually just like, oh yeah, they knew it was petition season. She's like, yeah, I figured it was someone getting signatures. Come on in. One person I did walk in, they're like, who are you? I thought you were my cousin coming in, and I'm like, I'm really sorry. That's why I was trying to tell you that you shouldn't let someone come in your house. But oh yeah, Bridesburg, Pennypack, the nicest people I've ever met.
Petitions are challenging, and but. You know, one of the things that I was happy to see was that I got a lot of votes when I ran for city council from people who told me that they would have never voted for a Republican, but they voted for me specifically.
Because they met you.
Probably. And that's what I want people to realize, that get past the party, realize that I'm your neighbor, and I'm going to put you over politics. And
sure, and you walk the walk.
To run, yeah. I'm gonna do what's best for my neighbors.
You know, when I used to be a Democrat, and my entire life, most of my adult life, from 18 to 46, I guess, I was a Democrat. I left the party, and one of the reasons, you know, there are numerous reasons, but one of the reasons I would talk to people who were quote unquote involved in politics and involved in their communities, who are Democrats, and I would ask them things like, okay, so what do you do? What do you do for your community? Like, well, I help the Democratic Party. I'm like, oh yeah, what do you do? And well, I come to parties. I said, well, that's not really helping your community. I mean, you and I come from the same background. You were president of the
Tank County Civic
Association. I was president of Logan Square Neighborhood Association. I'm still a board member. So, you know, I got disenfranchised because I didn't because people were asking me to get more involved in Democratic politics. They wanted me to get more involved in the party. And I would go to these events, and I almost expected to see people from the civic world. I didn't see many. I expected to see or hear people saying, okay, I'm not involved in my local civic, but this is what I do. I never heard that. So, you know, it's refreshing to see someone like you who before they got into politics, they didn't get into politics because they wanted to get involved. You were already involved, and you want to maybe just kind of take that next step. And, you know, that was the same thing, the same reason I got involved in politics. You know, it was almost kind of similar to what you were saying in why you should be a career politician, or if you are going to be a career politician, you keep moving up. You know, I wanted to go from president of Logan Square Neighborhood Association to city council, or maybe state rep. And, you know, I appreciate the time it takes. So I'm going to thank you, Pete, for coming. We're coming to the end of this. And, you know, once you decide 100%, we'll have to have you back, and we'll talk about your campaign.
I'd love to. Thanks, Drew.
All right. Thank you. You're listening to Oos the Radio.